All right, let's stop.
Can you sing it?
Oh, you know, that would be cruel and unusual punishment. And there is some lovely singing insect in the background. I think it's a ground cricket. But, all right, we're gonna try this one more time. From the beginning. There we go. All right. Was it really worth it? Let's say it was. So we actually have a couple of weeks worth of columns to get caught up on, because last week we took the week off in honor of Carl Strang's Singing Insects presentation over at Creek Bend. I'll be sharing a little bit more about that in a few slides, but if you were able to catch the columns in the paper or online, you know that we wrote about barn swallows. And Bob and Kathy, I have to thank you for this photo. I don't know how old it is, but the great thing about it is barn swallows really don't change that much over the years. This was a local Kane County barn swallow. And really the gist of that column was that they're such neat little birds, and they are insectivores that love to follow lawnmowers. And of course, out in front of Hickory Knolls, we've got over 200 acres of soccer fields that require regular mowing. And so the barn swallows have found that much to their benefit to hang out in that area and build their nest. It wasn't until this year, though, that we actually had a barn swallow nest on Hickory Knolls. They tend to build over either by the soccer buildings or over on the grounds of the Illinois Youth Corrections building. But we did have a pair. They raised two broods in the area above the front entryway at Hickory Knolls. So we've got that kind of overhang or canopy area, and they were nesting up there. They build their houses, their nests out of mud. And of course, they get their name from their tendency to way back when nest in barns. Barn doors were frequently open, and if the large doors weren't, the smaller doors usually were. This was a really great benefit to these birds, and they adapted quickly from the cliff faces and the bluffs that they used to nest upon. So that as barns came into the area, the barn swallow numbers, we tend to feel, went up. You can look, if you look closely at these nests, here's another picture of one, you can see that they're little individual blobs of mud. Building these nests in the springtime or near water sources is a big benefit to these birds, because that mud is then they carry it up in their mouth, and kind of just like bricklayers lay bricks, these guys lay row upon row of little balls of mud adhering to the barn beams, or in the case of at Hickory Knolls, it was just stuck to the side of one of the pieces of siding that we have. You can tell in the lower photograph too that the tendency for catching bugs and feeding their young insects. These guys, to my knowledge, really don't feed on anything other than insects. They're really adept at catching birds on the wing. And of course, the farmers used to love that because they had some natural insect control. Now, barn swallows, well, the name swallow, we talk about swallowtails. Of the swallows that we have in this area, which include not just the barn swallow, but the tree swallow and the cliff swallow, the northern rough-winged swallow, it's only the barn swallow that has that deep V in the tail, like we see here. You can also see it here. It's going to fly into the nest here. This was actually over at Creek Bend Nature Center. They have been posting swallows on their nature center just a little bit longer. Not that it's a competition, but I was really thrilled this year when Hickory Knolls got their barn swallows because Creek Bend has had them all along. Now, apparently in the column, I made reference to the tendency for barn swallows to eat bugs by the bazillions. And that caused a reader, to send in this video here. Let me see if I can get it to play. I can't reach. Boy, all kinds of technical difficulties tonight.
The news, 6 Brazilian men die in a skydiving accident.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it is sad. But you know what? They were skydiving and there's always that risk involved.
It just seems like so many. How many is a Brazilian?
Just a little humor. That maybe wasn't quite as funny as the amount of effort that it took to get to it. But anyway, Julie had read the column, saw the bazillions, and immediately thought of this Brazilians joke. So anyway, I'm afraid that from now on, every time I see a barn swallow, I'm going to be thinking of Brazil. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go to cicadas again. I know we've talked about these insects before, but they do come up pretty frequently this time. I can't help but talk about them because they are really everywhere. In the column, I focused a little bit more on the females, but I did want to mention that there was a really cool demonstration that Carl Strang did during the Singing Insects program last week. He talked about how these insects make their noises. It's a little bit different from what we see with our crickets and our katydids, the other songsters that we're hearing this time of year. Those insects produce their sound by something called stridulation, where they will rub one wing over another. There's a stiffened vein, and by rubbing those parts back and forth rapidly, we get all the diversity of cricket and katydid sounds that we hear in this area. Now, cicadas, which are done calling, they're kind of the day shift of these singing insects. When we hear at night are the crickets and the katydids, but the cicadas are the daytime singers. And what they have here, I took this picture. It's not the greatest, but I had to pull a wing off of one of my, it wasn't part of the, one of the most valuable parts of the bug collection on my desk, but this one, the wing actually kind of broke off. I didn't intend to pull it off, but anyway, what we're looking at here is the side of the cicada. And if we look a little bit closer in, we see there's a large plate called a timbal right here. Well, that plate-like thing is actually a series of ribs that move in and out. I tend to think of it as the like the bubble on a jar. You know how these bubbles will move. Do that by the mic here. Moves in and out, and it produces a sound. Well, if you speed that up, it makes a sound somewhat approximating what a cicada makes. Now, Carl Strang, what he did was he took the head of a drum, just the loose drum skin, and he shook it back and forth, which, sounds, kind of like a little bit of a rattle. But when he recorded that and then he sped it up, it sounded exactly like that of a cicada. So rather than rubbing body parts, rather than rubbing wings together and stridulating, cicadas will use these timbals, and they bend the ribs of the timbal in and out very, very rapidly. In the male's abdomen, there's it's kind of like an echo chamber that causes the sound to carry a great distance. I was really surprised last weekend. I was mowing the lawn, and the sound of a lawnmower engine is, I think it's rated at over 90 decibels. It's and some are even louder than that. I could actually hear the cicadas calling over the sound of the lawnmower. So a gas lawnmower, I should add. you've got an electric lawnmower, you'll hear cicadas and crickets and katydids and everything because of their being so much quieter. But anyway, very, very loud sounds coming out from these fellas these days. And of course, their purpose is to attract the female. And just as a little reminder, I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, but the female cicada does have this amazing egg depositing organ right here, this ovipositor that acts pretty much like a sawzall to cut into the soft, the tender part of usually the newer growth part of a twig, where she will insert her eggs. The eggs hatch after, I don't know, about a week or 10 days, and then those young fall to the ground and they immediately dig down and they start feeding on tree roots. So still happening. It'll probably be going on for another few weeks yet. The 4 species that we have in this area, the Linnaeus and the lyric and the scissor grinder and I'm forgetting one, but they are all calling right now in a tree very near you. So this is the main reason that I wanted the sound to work, not so much for the intro song, although we do enjoy that. But I wanted you to listen to this. Kim Haig and I were out, this was about a week and a half ago, a little over a week ago, walking in the Hickory Knolls Natural Area. And I just love it when you can hear a bird that says its name. It's gonna, drink your tea. Let's do it again. We can all sing it together. Count of 3, 2, 3. Drink your tea. This fella was bound and determined to sing away and just kept singing. What I thought was interesting, well, it was interesting for a couple of reasons. One, this is August. We're not really hearing a lot of birds singing right now. Here's Kim pointing it out. There were towhees, and there were also chickadees up in the branches of these trees. Male was singing away. I looked up how long they continue this song for, because some birds, there's actually fewer months that they're not singing. They tend to sing for a lot longer. This usually has an association with breeding. In this area, in our area, towhees tend to call until about the middle of August. So we're getting up to the end. So this is sort of a limited time engagement if you want to hear them. If you miss your chance though, you can get back out and you can hear the eastern towhee in this area. Usually in April is when they return and we start hearing them. They are members of the sparrow family, and now we've got a siren going by. The male and the female are pictured here. The female is I think she's still quite lovely, but her colors are a little bit more muted. She's got brown instead of black. The genus name is from the Latin word for bunting and to chirp, so a chirping bunting-like bird. And then that erythrophthalmus references the red eye we see here on the male. So they will be around. This is the range map from eBird that shows that we do have some that will will stick around in this area, but you can see for the most part they will head down south for the winter time. But I do love a bird that you can identify without even seeing. They were really difficult to pick out up there in the trees, but that drink your tea song that they sing is quite distinctive. Now, I read an article that was just downright depressing about towhees. It talked about how the population is dropping due to habitat loss. This is a bird that tends to prefer brushy habitat, and whether it's land that's being cleared for development or whether it's forest succession, the brushy habitat that they prefer is disappearing. they are highly parasitized by cowbirds. And this is something that's been going on for a long time. I was reading about them in Arthur Cleveland Bent's book, Birds of, I forget which chapter these guys are in, but it's the book with all the sparrows that Bent wrote about. And they, 100 years ago, were finding as many as 5 cowbird eggs in a towhee nest. So they are heavily parasitized by cowbirds. Nesting success rates were as low as 20%. So you're thinking, oh my gosh, how do we have any towhees at all? Well, I thought these numbers were kind of strange because this was a bird that I don't recall hearing in the Hickory Knolls natural area, 15 years ago when I started at the Park District. Now, we have done a lot of restoration in the area, but I also went and I checked with our good friends at Kane County Audubon, and looking at the spring bird counts in 1972, the year the count started, 12 eastern towhees, which were called rufous-sided towhees at that time, 12 birds were counted. And in our most recent count, in May of this year, there were 79. And there were some years that were even higher than that. So preferring a brushy habitat, we do have some areas that are getting brushier as shrubs, not all of which we welcome, but there are some areas that perhaps are, the towhees are finding more to their liking. So anyway, see if you can check these guys out, whether it's now or when they come back next spring. So I was out the other day, I was over at Lowe's, and I was over in the garden section, and I walked by this display, and I literally did a double take. I thought, are you kidding me? Here's this big display of a product called Snake Away. University tested and ready to use. And they are snake repelling granules. And I thought, oh, for heaven's sakes, for one thing, I've spent most of my life trying to attract snakes, not repel them. And now there's this product, and it's made by Victor, who makes our all the mouse traps too. So this is a company that specializes in pest control, how do we get rid of people. And I was just sort of dumbfounded at first. I pulled a bag out, and I took a picture here of the active ingredients, which are naphthalene and sulfur. So mothballs and sulfur. So this is would be a repellent that works via smell. And I thought it was interesting. Well, first of all, it's harmful if swallowed. We're not supposed to breathe the vapors. Don't get it in your food. Don't put it on your skin. Yet it's okay to go ahead and spread on your landscape. Although it's a violation of federal law to use it in a manner inconsistent with its label. So it said that it repels rattlesnakes, and apparently all kinds of rattlesnakes, all the Crotalus rattlers, according to the label. And then I thought it was interesting, they specified checkered garter snakes, and then they spelled the genus name wrong. They said Thamnophic. Actually, they spelled Marianus is the species. So they screwed up both the genus and the species name for a garter snake that does not even live in this area. If you go to Hickory Knolls and you meet Gertrude, our captive garter snake, who was bred specifically for education and for keeping in captivity, she actually is a checkered garter snake. We got from a local breeder. Checkered garter snakes would be southwest of here, Texas, Oklahoma, the Panhandle area. They're not the sort of garter snake that we would even have around here. But I thought it was interesting that they called out that particular species as being repelled by the smell of mothballs and sulfur. So I don't know if that means our local, we have Thamnophis sertalis and Thamnophis radix as our two local species. Maybe this stuff doesn't work on them. I don't know. But if you sprinkle these little granules around, you will keep your snakes away from your house, your cabin, your trailer, your garage, your barn, which either you have a poet or perhaps that's a barn, supposed to be, wood piles, sand piles, trash cans, and flower beds. I thought it was funny though, they also add as a qualifier, do not use this product in sites where snakes are believed to already be present, as the deterrent effects of the product might tend to confine the snakes to the treated areas. So maybe I should get some of these, find some snakes and then, sprinkle these granules around so they'll stay around and be my friends. I don't know. They also have a cautionary statement on here that says that it might deter other snakes as well. It is not expected to consistently repel corn snakes and other rat snakes and the moccasin snakes such as cottonmouths and copperheads. So I'm actually kind of curious why this product wouldn't work on them. I would think that their senses of smell would be just as acute as these other species, but yeah, I'll ask around. Maybe there's a snake away expert out there that I can get some answers from. There was also a statement on here that I did not copy. It talked about how this product is toxic to fish and to not use in an area where it might wash into water, which when you think about it, especially the way our storm sewers are around here and the way we just had this torrential rain, if someone had sprinkled snake away, probably would have washed off and gone down into a storm drain and be making its way to the Fox River, even as we're speaking tonight. So anyway, just kind of a interesting thing. We talked last time we met, I talked about seeing the bug zappers for sale over at Costco. And in fact, those are made by the same company too. This is all Victor Snake Away, the bug zappers, have a heart traps. They're all made by this one company that is, like I said, specializing in how to get rid of things, people. Anyway, before I go even deeper into that rant, let's move on and talk about something happy and something that's happening right now. It's stick bugs. Now, after the sort of rain and storm that we just had, I would imagine a few of these have gotten knocked down. I guarantee you, if they are up in the trees where they naturally live and feed on the leaves of trees, you would not see them. They are excellent at camouflaging themselves, hence the name stick bug or walking stick. But when they get knocked down in a strong wind or a strong rain like we just had, and they land on your sidewalk, they land on a shrub, they land on a screen door, that's where you'll see these bugs. And I wanted to just show you real quick how you can tell the difference between the males and the females. So on the left here, we have the male, and you can see he's got these two clasper organs here at the tip of his abdomen. On the right side over here, we have the female with a little different arrangement at the tip of her abdomen. Those areas, of course, relate to how we get more walking sticks. In fact, I forget where I read this, and it was several years ago that I read it, but it stuck in my brain. The insect that holds the record for the longest copulation is the walking stick. So those parts work really well together, goes on for hours and hours. And that is indeed how we get more sticks. Stick bugs it is. Here's a close-up of the male. Here's a close-up of the female. And then, this is Tricia, I have to thank you for this next slide. This picture on the right here, I'm sorry, on the left, was taken by Tricia just a week or so ago. This is not a northern walking stick. This is the Annam walking stick, which is it's a Vietnamese species that's kept commonly as a pet. Over in the UK, many, many years ago, a group of people started what's called the phasmid study group. Phasmid refers to the family that these insects belong to. So phasmid study group is abbreviated PSG. all of the different walking sticks that are kept as pets are assigned numbers. And the lower the number, the longer it's been kept in captivity. The Annam walking stick in Annam is ANNAM. These Vietnamese walking sticks have been kept in captivity for such a long time. They are PSG number 5, so very low number. Well, Tricia was looking at the walking sticks in her classroom, and she happened to notice that there was some activity at the south end there of the abdomen. Look at this little gray sphere right here. Lo and behold, she caught the walking stick in the act of laying an egg. Tricia, are you with us tonight?
I am.
Can you tell us, did you sit for hours and hours waiting for this opportunity, or was this just?
Actually, I just kind of happened on it. I've got a small tank in the classroom, and I'm always looking, and just right now I know that our 2 adult sticks that we have are probably not long with us, so I keep looking and watching and seeing, looking for signs of maybe any babies. And this one was just kind of like in my face. I didn't really have to look for it, but I noticed it, and I thought it was really odd to see that, the small whitish grayish ball kind of thing there. So I stuck my camera down into the aquarium that I have them in, and was able to get that picture, and then enlarged it and thought, holy cow, I think that's an egg.
And yes, indeed it is. Now these insects, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no males in the tank, right?
I don't know. I have 2. I have 2. I don't know.
But
No, they both. I know.
you're taking pictures of very personal areas.
Yeah. No,
I think you would know.
They look the same.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, because these are sticks that have been kept in captivity for a very, very long time, and they are also known to be parthenogenic, which means the females can reproduce without having a male around. The only catch is that they can only produce more females. So have you seen any of these eggs starting to hatch yet?
No, I keep looking, and I have no idea how many eggs to expect. And the debris that's on the bottom of the tank, I mean, it looks like debris, but is it poop? Or, there's the poop that's on the glass, and I clean that up. But there are a lot of things down on the bottom that look like that. So I'm hoping that I have quite a few eggs.
Yeah, well, and that's, I think, and I've got a couple of pictures over here on the right, and a couple of new words to learn: capitulum and elizome. So these, I think there might be an element of camouflage to these eggs because they're so diverse. These are Annam walking stick eggs laid out here, and we've got some that are kind of patterned, and then some that are more uniform in color, but they all have a little dark, shiny bit on the end. Our local walking sticks, now their eggs look a little bit different. They're shiny and black with a strip of white on them. But the strip of white on our local stick eggs, and then this black on the Vietnamese eggs, that's called the capitulum, or capitula, I believe is the plural on that. And that's a little bit of enticement. It's, I think there's some sugars in there. I believe there's some fat in there. Those are there to attract the attention of ants. When ants are out foraging, and it's not species specific, it's just ants that forage on the ground and have a fondness for sugars or for fats, they pick up those eggs, and they will carry them back to their nest. The egg gets taken down into the nest, but the egg itself is not consumed. It's just that capitulum on the end that gets fed upon. And I'm wondering, Tricia, since you've got your sticks in your aquarium, in your classroom, and we have sticks in the aquarium at Hickory Knolls. Well, I guess because there's really no threat to those eggs, we don't have to introduce ants into the enclosure too to kind of that's I bet the building that. But it does, were they in the wild, this would offer the benefit of the eggs would get the protection of being a little bit under the ground, a little bit protected from the elements, and then the egg would be able to develop and and then the baby would leave, and the ants would not harm it. So it's kind of a cool thing. And there's a relationship in the plant world. So what we have below the stick eggs is that's actually the seed of wild ginger. And you can see the seed is on the bottom part, but the top part there looks kind of like jelly. That's the plant equivalent of a capitulum, which is known as an elaiosome. And again, it's fat, it's sugar, it's there to attract insects. Usually ants will carry these off. I know in my own yard, I've had wild ginger growing on the north side of the yard for gosh, over 25 years now. And it's kind of done some spreading on its own, but a few years back, it popped up on the south side of my yard. And I can only think that it must have been an ant who trotted that seed with that elaiosome, took it back down into the anthill. They fed off of the sweet treat with a little bit of fat mixed in, and then left the wild ginger seed to grow on its own. So it's kind of a neat thing that even though these are very diverse living things, a plant and an animal, they have both developed these similar sorts of structures for similar sorts of purposes. So with that, let's stay in the arthropod world just a little bit longer because it is that time of year. I went out the other day to check on Miss Trash Spider, and she is still doing nicely there. She's got her web spread out on the fennel plant that's in my front yard. If you missed the week where we talked about trash spiders, this is the trash web orb weaver. And they're known for their tendency to spin a small, I would say about the size of a compact disc, but a small orb web. But then they weave all of their trash into the midline of it. And it really is a superb means of camouflage for them. Miss Trash Spider, she was kind of running up and down. I think I sort of upset her by getting in as close as I was. And by the way, if you've tried to photograph spider webs, they can be a real devil. And I'm not a photographer, and I was doing this with my cell phone. So, but even without extreme clarity here, we can see there's several insect exoskeletons that she's wrapped up and woven in. And then I think she's right here about a little bit more than halfway up the web at that time. She was positioned more towards the center of the web when I first approached her, but like I said, I disturbed her. I was just thrilled to see she was still there. As the season progresses and the web gets heavier, when we have windy days, sometimes it'll actually tear. And if it's too windy, I don't know that the spider will come back and weave it again or not, or if it's just, she's all done. But I was really glad to see that she's still hanging in there despite some of this severe weather that we've been having. But I was even more surprised, and no disrespect to Miss Trash Spider, because she is beautiful too. But when I turned around, I actually gasped, because look who was living right next door. Same fennel plant there on the right. It's a little blurry because it's in the background, but right below Trash Spider is this wonderful Argiope. Argiope arancia is the Latin name for this species. I don't think that I have ever had a beautiful garden spider like this in my yard, so I was really excited. She's spun her web between the fennel and the prairie drop seed that's growing in the front yard. She's just in front of the, what is she? Oh, she's by the mountain mint. So there's a lot of insect activity in this area, and somehow, one way or another, she found her way into it to take advantage herself. Now, a cool thing about the Argiopes spiders is that you don't have to see the spider, although they are spiders who tend to hang out right in the center of their web most of the time, at least in the daytime. You can identify an Argiope just by the web. You see the zigzag that's below her there? That's known as the stabilimentum, or the, I call it the zipper. And there's some debate amongst the arachnologists as to what function that serves. Some say, well, it's called a stabilimentum. It's because it helps stabilize the web. Some say it helps the spider, provide some UV protection for the spider when it's there hanging out in the daytime. Some say it helps birds avoid crashing into the spider web. I don't know. I would think it would actually cause birds to fly towards it if they were actually looking to feed on the spider. That would be an attractant for them. But anyway, there's some debate as to why that structure is there, but it is the signature of this particular genus of spider. And she is just gorgeous. I believe she was feeding on something too. This is a spider that will actually subdue its prey with silk, and then it administers the venomous bite after they've wrapped their meal up. So if you watch one feed, it's kind of interesting. In fact, I think over here on the extreme right, it looks like there's some prey that's wrapped up kind of in the spider version of saran wrap there, waiting to be fed on later. But they wrap the live prey in silk, and then they will bite it and administer the venom to slow it down. Seems like the venom should subdue it ahead of time, but again, I'm not a spider. What do I know? So just kind of I had not written about Argiopes for since last year, but it is definitely the season to see these spiders. And I got this email on Monday. Hey Pam, I'm not really a wizard identifying spiders, insects, or animals, but I like to try. I've attached an image of what I believe is a large female Argiope. I went outside like many other days to water the garden. I was just finishing up letting the hose run as I turned off the spigot. I can't tell you why I looked up, Pam, but I did, and my eye shot to a massive web with a huge spider cradled right in the middle. I felt a shock of fear run through me, but I could not look away. What an enchanting beast to find refuge just under my roof. I went inside to invite my partner to have a look, and we both reveled at the sheer mass of her. I've never personally seen such a large spider. So I got my phone, snapped some pictures, got online to see what I could find. Anyway, I saw your page and thought I might share my own. Have a great weekend. So Rachel in San Antonio, Texas sent these photos, and I love this. So this is what she saw, probably from where she was putting her hose away. And you can just see up there towards the top of the eave what looks like a spider web. And as we get in a little bit closer, without getting any closer, there you can see the zipper. From this great distance already that you're looking at the web of an Argiope. Now, I have to say, I don't know the species of Argiopes that live in Texas, but I think Rachel did a fine job of capturing the essence of this spider, and sounds like she got quite the thrill herself out of it as well. So it is the season. In addition to the garden spider, some people call them banana spiders, but we also have the banded Argiope in this area. It looks a little bit different. It's got some stripes on it, but it too creates a web with that fine zipper down the middle. So keep your eyes open. You might be lucky enough to find one yourself. So this was something unexpected. I tossed this in at the last minute because it really caught my attention, and it actually gobbled up about an hour of my morning. I let the dogs out early this morning because I knew it was going to be kind of yucky later. So this was about a little after 6 o'clock this morning. I come down the stairs, and as we've talked about many, many times, I have elderberry bushes in my yard. And this time of year, I have not cut them back yet. And I'm still harvesting some of the berries. So they're pretty spread out and rangy. And sometimes I kind of have to lean to get around them as I come down the steps of the deck into the yard. But anyway, what caught my eye was this mound of white fluff on one of the leaves. And when I looked a little bit closer, I could see that it was like well, would have been sawdust if this had been wood, but this is actually the pith, the soft, kind of almost spongy pith from the inside of an elderberry twig. And it was a pretty large pile. I would say that was 2 inches across, maybe a little bit more. It was certainly enough to catch my attention, even though I am not a morning person. So I took a couple of pictures, stills like this, and then I started watching a little more closely, and I could see little bits of pith being flung from inside. So I tried to make a video, and my hope was to identify who this creature is. I don't know what it is. I'm thinking it's a type of solitary wasp. There's about as good of a look as we'll get as at that abdomen. I think I might have, added a picture here too, but I fussed a little bit with, some of the pages on of solitary bees and solitary wasps, and who might choose the pith of elderberry to build a nest gallery in. And there's a lot of options, and not being able to see things like the shape of the head, and I'm sure there's wasp or bee experts out there who could look at that abdomen and maybe be able to give us an ID. But I'm going to keep an eye on it a little bit more. But I realized as I was see if I can actually see, the whole insect come on. I'm not hopeful. I think this is the egg laying part of the life cycle, and usually these insects don't last a whole much longer after that. But I think what was going on here was she was digging into the pith to create chambers where she will deposit eggs and then some sort of food for the larvae. I don't know, not knowing what sort of insect this is. I'm suspecting that it is a type of wasp, and that she will probably sting some sort of insect to provision the nest with. I suppose there's a chance it might be a type of bee, in which case they would probably then provision the larvae with nectar or pollen and possibly nectar. But anyway, I realized that the more important thing here is that this is such a great example of why we shouldn't cut things down and put them out for brush collection or burn them. Trim is necessary, but try to leave as much as you can, as near as you can to where it is growing, because there's a lot of life that will depend on that. I will try to keep an eye, as I said, on this particular twig or stalk or cane, whatever you want to call it, that's growing on the elderberry. But I certainly won't, even though it's right at the bottom of the stairs, I won't be cutting this one down because I want to see what becomes of it. I also want to see if there's any more. I was a little curious. I don't know how the end got broken off. Was this something the insect did, or was it looking specifically for a broken off twig? I don't recall breaking that particular piece of elderberry, but it's pretty flat on the end, almost as if it had been chewed away. So I don't know, maybe if I'm able to figure out the species, that will help me figure out a little bit more too of how it chose that particular spot to make its nest. With that, let's look ahead to next week. If you've been walking around at all in areas where the plant prairie drop seed grows, you know that it's blooming right now. It's sending out its aromas that some say smell like popcorn, some say smell like cilantro, some say it stinks. But anyway, it is very prevalent right now. We'll be taking a look at it and why it makes those particular aromas. Didn't get the fishing spiders this week, so I'm going to add those next week. Whoa. Also didn't get to the fungus that I'd hoped to talk about this week, so I'll be adding those as well. Who knows what's going to come in the old email inbox? We'll take a look at that, and I'm sure there'll be lots more late breaking news in the world of nature by this time next week. So with that, I'm going to shut this down, stop the share, and turn it over to you guys. Does anybody have anything? We've got a couple of chats here. Let's see. Snake away product is outrageous. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. The ad about, yeah, got to get rid of those cicadas before they, you know, what would they do? Eat us? There, I have somewhere tucked away, someone many years ago had given me a snake, there's a snake trap, and it was basically like a big glue trap. It was just a horrid thing, and I was grateful to get it, mainly so that this would be one less snake sticky trap available for somebody else to put out and actually catch a snake with. But I don't know why. You know, I guess, you know, I'm speaking as someone who's never lived around venomous snakes, but even when I've traveled to areas where they're there, I haven't felt as though I need to keep them away. I wasn't sprinkling snake away everywhere that I went. I was actually out looking for them, but yeah, I don't know. That same company, they have the Have-A-Heart traps. They've got the bug zappers, the snap traps, which I actually, if you do have a mouse problem, I think those are the best option. They're certainly better than poison baits, but yeah, snake away. I don't know. I didn't see anybody buying it. I was grateful that, you know, the display was still pretty full when I was there. Does anybody else have any questions, observations, things you've been up to this week that you'd like to share? So was the traffic noise like really rude and overbearing?
No.
I don't know how much of it was picked up on this microphone, but there was a couple of times there where there was some between tires squealing and engines roaring. I don't know exactly what was going on over there, but I'd actually hoped to go over to Potawatomi tonight and broadcast from there, but with the rain and everything, the veranda was all wet and the Wi-Fi signal doesn't really extend very far beyond that. So maybe I'll try that next week for some, you know, pleasant background noises again. So I apologize if it was real noisy here, but hey, the rain has cleared the air up, and maybe we'll have a nice day tomorrow. Hope so. Well, everybody, I appreciate your time tonight, and hopefully see you back again next week, and we have another good-natured week ahead of you. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Pam. Great club.
Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Appreciate your patience at the beginning. Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Thanks
so much,
Bye, Pam.
Bye.